Now, author of Trump and the American Future, former Speaker of the House, Fox News contributor Newt Gingrich. I mean, what they're saying, you're the great historian, you're a professor. What they say that they will do is predictably going to fail. And it's even, let's see, Elizabeth Warren, Bolshevik Bernie, AOC, Kamala Harris, well, a weak, frail, and cognitively struggling Joe, Michael Moore, no electoral college. I think they mean all of it.
Oh, I'm sure they mean all of it, and I'm sure that at this moment of seeming victory, they're giddy with excitement. The two people who ought to be happiest out of what you just reported are Kelly Loeffler and David Perdue, because this clarifies the Georgia Senate runoff perfectly. Loeffler faces the most radical Democratic nominee in the entire country, and Raphael Warnock. And, of course, David Perdue is up against Jon Ossoff, who is a solid, complete, 100% obedient San Francisco radical fundraising machine. So I think every time from here till the runoff in Georgia, every single day that the left does something stupid is a big gift to Loeffler and to Perdue. And it should remind the American people how really vital this is, because you're exactly right. They win. Mitch McConnell blocks disaster in the Senate. They lose. And Kamala Harris, as president of the Senate, breaks the tie. So Kamala Harris and the Democrats get to decide what to do. I mean, it's about as big a gap of the future of America as you could imagine.
You know, we've been in this game, this business, long enough to remember California, that was in play for Republican presidential candidates. Wipe it off the map. It's not in play anymore. And there was a time Virginia was in play. George Allen, right? There was a time, Colorado was in play. Now it doesn't seem to be in play anymore. The Rust Belt states, Pennsylvania was very winnable, easily winnable for a Republican. That map gets smaller and smaller. What is going on in Georgia and North Carolina that things are this tight?
Well, I think, look, I still want to see a real recount, a real canvass in Georgia. And North Carolina, of course, was called for Trump.
Yeah.
No, we're not necessarily. It turns out that the Secretary of State signed a consent agreement that Stacey Abrams insisted on. That means you cannot identify the people who cast the absentee ballots. Now, I only learned that today, and I think it is so appalling that it's unimaginable. But apparently that's what he did, and apparently the governor approved it. And so, they can go out and canvass as long as they don't try to find out who voted.
Is that going to impact the Senate race? Is that going to impact the January 5th Senate races?
It could. Sure, it could. Which is why they ought to call a special session. They ought to come back in and look at what they've done. Remember, the Constitution gives authority to the states' legislatures, not to the Secretary of State, not to the governor, not to judges. But it says very directly in the Constitution, the state legislatures. And these state legislators ought to stand up and do their job. And in the case of Georgia, this is an absurd agreement that changes state law. It makes no sense at all. And they ought to fight it.
Speaker Gingrich, thank you for being with us.